think I know who this is, and it's fitting that you're the final caller. Kowalski, are you there?
Kowalski, there's not a farm accident happening right now, is there?
Sorry about that. As usual, I'm doing farm stuff.
Yeah, we can hear.
Am I coming in clear? I'm using a hands-free.
It's great.
It's okay, but there's some ambient noise. Maybe you could...
But it adds to it, so let's...
All right, just roll with it. What's up, Kowalski?
All right. Well, I just wanted to give you that final agricultural report for the year. So I kind of have a pre-written thing out to sound like John from San Antonio.
Perfect. Are you gonna try to do John's voice?
I
think that's
am not a Giga Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
keep going.
all right. So, final ag report of 2021. So, in brief, the year started out with the record surplus that was produced in the last couple of years basically being used up, and that had a lot to do with China burning through a lot of its reserves to fight the U.S. trade war led by Trump. This trade war put us into a interesting position where we nearly ran out of our surplus to meet the feed demands for most of the livestock. China's also in the process of rebuilding its hog herd. A lot of people don't know this, but a good chunk of China's domestic hog production got wiped out in a pandemic of its own. So they're in the process of rebuilding that, so demand's going to stay relatively high. Prices have backed off from their all-time high over the summer. However, prices still remain very strong, and even with high input costs, the industry is sitting in a much better place than it has since 2015. Other factors such as increases and the SNAP program has also helped keep prices strong. That's pretty much where the good news ends. Looking forward, or looking into the near future, it's not looking like South America is going to be producing an above-average crop, which means the surplus globally is not expected to grow very much, which will only add to the drought pressures the United States as well as South America is facing. Prices remain fairly high on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange over the next year, which is important to watch because they take into account a lot of these environmental factors and project what prices will be when those crops are up for sale. The issue with high prices like this is that it will facilitate the destruction of the rainforest to make way for more soybean and cattle production, which is obviously not good. Looking into 2022, it is expected at this point to potentially be the hottest year on record now that the La Niña effect will be winding down, which has helped keep temperatures relatively low as the Pacific absorbed a bunch of heat. This will mean there will likely be record storms, droughts, and floods depending on your area. It'll just vary where you're at. This past year, which had all-time land heat records, however, surface temperatures obviously being, absorbed by the Pacific, that's not expected to change. It's a bit more complicated, but that's all that's relevant then for the ag side of it. At the beginning of the year, when prices began to move up, I made the claim the agricultural economy improved enough that it might deter the farm vote from being all that active in the upcoming midterms in the Midwest and the Upper Great Plains. I no longer think that's going to be the case. A lot of the forums and articles I keep up with on Ag News has been talking nonstop about the inflation, and that is pretty much being solely put onto the Biden administration, being blamed for increased gas and food. Also, with extremely popular programs like the child tax credits, this actually facilitated a lot of daycare options in rural areas that will likely go away next year, which will add more animosity. And especially as a lot of people do not understand how these how the rich tax cuts can remain in place with those kind of policies will be blamed solely on the Democrats, even if the Republicans are basically lying about their true positions on it. It won't matter, and it's going to harm the Democrats more than likely. The narrative right now across much of the Great Plains and the Midwest when it comes to the upcoming election is predominantly around CRT, deregulation, and taking away women's reproductive rights. All of these are awful in of themselves. These issues, if passed through legislatures, which is very likely, will continue to cause more rural flight as young people, in particular women and minorities, move to cities where their rights are more easily protected. The countryside will continue to be hollowed out as the average age of the farmer continues to rise above 60 years old, and it becomes less resilient to adverse effects as climate change is creating far more problems. This will likely lead to more consolidation in corporate farms to fill the vacuum, which will likely be filled with migrant labor or gig-style work. Despite this entirely bleak outlook, I'm still fairly optimistic in the long term, however, because the state of affairs will force something to happen. I don't know when it will happen, but it's got to change because we are at the physical ends of exploiting land, water, and labor resources. It is my hope that the 21st century will have some sort of homestead act that will help revitalize these small towns and reservations, which are equally being hollowed out just as any other rural areas, to help bring younger people back. Obviously, this would tie into my idea for community or co-op focused greenhouses on a county-by-county level to try to facilitate some sort of community center around that. I explain that a bit more in Left Reckoning if anyone is interested. And then, obviously, thanks for the great show this year and the opportunity to ramble as I am now on agricultural topics on your guys' platforms. I wish you all a very merry holiday season, and Emma in particular, your addition to the show last year has been awesome. And in the rather male-dominated space that is political YouTube, you have been a force to reckon with, and we definitely enjoy your perspective, your interviews, and your sports takes.
Thank you. Thank
Aww.
you. That's really sweet. And we always appreciate the agricultural report. However bleak it sounded today.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. I want to point, we will be releasing for everybody on our YouTube channel on Left Reckoning our discussion with Aaron on his, I can't get the idea of urban greenhouses out of my head. It seems like a federal program that should absolutely be happening now, where you can go and actually grow your own food in your community and not have to I guess gig work to Nebraska, which is, it looks like what probably will end up having to be, forced on people. But yeah, thanks, Aaron.